Welcome back, Soulful Society, to Soulful of Wellness,
the multigenerational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to help you live your most authentic, balanced, and anxiety-free life.
Thank you for joining us for another week of wellness goodness. And if you're new to the Soulful Society, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. We know that you have a vast ocean of podcasts to choose from, and we're so happy you chose Soulful of Wellness. We'd love to have you as a regular listener, so if you enjoyed today's podcast, please consider subscribing so you get a new dose of wellness goodness delivered automatically every Thursday morning.
Today we're talking about the 4 essential life lessons learned from reality TV. You won't want to miss these.
I am so grateful that we are able to blend two of our favorite things in the entire universe. Our guilty pleasure of reality TV and wellness. I mean, this might be a favorite of mine and we haven't even gotten started yet.
So if you listened to or remember listening to, it was a really long time ago, episode 73, Redefining Self-Care, you know that a simple guilty pleasure to both myself and to Kaelynn, something that just brings us great joy, is vegging out in front of some reality TV. So in today's episode, we are putting all the hours of our lives that we have spent doing this to good use for the pod as we glean the wellness nuggets and have fun sharing the soulful lessons we've learned from reality TV.
Believe it or not, the crazy behavior that you witness when you watch reality TV can tie back to wellness. It's a lot of what not to do that we found.
Like, you know, learning from mistakes, but here we're learning from, I don't know if they're mistakes, but we didn't even have to make the mistakes ourselves to learn from them. We just observed and learned. So we have to give a little bit of a warning up front that it is possible that there might be a spoiler or two in here if you're not fully current on your reality TV viewing. But we're not sharing anything that you probably haven't seen all over the place.
Except for you giving a spoiler away to me,
I know.
Which is a thing that you do. And when we apply in our audition for The Amazing Race, they said, be real and have conflict. I think that's our conflict kit, is that you spoil shows for me. Yeah. And if I don't watch it fast enough, you're just going to tell me what happened.
I think the problem is that you're not watching TV fast enough. Like, damn it, don't have so much of a life. Spend more time on your sofa.
I like dragging it.
I know you do, and I don't.
I like dragging it because it brings me joy to watch. I get sad when I finish it because then I don't have another show.
Yes.
So luckily,
I absolutely agree. I get sad, but I get like this FOMO thing because I'm thinking other people know what happens and I don't know what happens. I need to see it. I need to see it now. I need to know now. I can't not know. And that means watching it all right now.
This is like one of the things that we're not compatible on because I will be texting you my reactions. I'm on episode 8 and you're already done with everything. And then I remind myself, like, don't actually say any opinion because Kit's going to come in guns blazing with spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Just you're not even conscious of it. You can't help it.
Oh, right. I'm just talking, given my no holds barred opinion of the person, and that involves things from episodes you haven't seen yet.
I will say,
and evidence.
I mean, yeah. You come in with the evidence. I do forgive you though, because the spoiler that you gave makes me really happy, and it's a positive spoiler. And so,
right, well, it's I'm not upset about
lesson
it. We're doing today. Should we?
Let's dive in.
We're talking around it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
as we're already putting it out there, and I've already ruined it for you, let's just ruin it for everybody else if they're not current. And you know what, people? That's a little bit on you because live reunion last night. So obviously the show is Love is Blind. All right, the lesson.
When you make a mistake, own it. So we all make mistakes, obviously. This is how we evolve. But we evolve by learning from the mistakes, owning them, moving on. We can't run from them. When we hide from them, or we're just enveloped in shame and it causes inaction, or just hiding even from ourselves, let alone other people, it makes things worse for ourselves and for our relationships.
Other strategies, deflection, blaming others, trying with the art of redirection, like, magicians redirect their attention. It's like, no, we're watching you on TV. You can't reroute our attention. We're sitting here watching you. And when the people don't take responsibility or try to explain how it wasn't their fault when it so blatantly was, it never goes well. It just makes them look worse.
So the example that we're pulling from, because I do want to give kudos to Zach, his emotional maturity and ability to recognize his mistake and fully own it. And I was on pins and needles when he asked for her back. I was on pins and needles when he proposed again, because it's scary to do. And she has such a backbone and so much self-respect that I just had no idea what was going to happen.
He had no idea what was going to happen.
He did say that.
We're clearly talking about the Zach Bliss Irina triangle.
This is a true, spiritual and universal lesson, in my opinion, that what's meant for you is yours. And I'll divert for a second just to illustrate this. So when you're applying for a job, you've interviewed and you're waiting to hear back. Let's say, you're 2 interviews deep. You're along the process, you want this job. The waiting period is the hardest part, right? The unknown is so scary and so anxiety provoking. But ultimately, the way I get through those types of experiences is the inner knowing of what's meant for me is meant for me, and what is not, and it's that simple. So if they say no, if I get a no, then that's going to just lead me eventually to the right yes, if that makes sense. And then if they say yes, it is for me. And it's the same thing with Zach and Bliss.
That's very you. I've heard you say things along those lines consistently in the whole time I've known you. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to feel anxious sometimes, or you're not going to feel disappointed when you get the answer you didn't want. Say you don't get the job, for example. It's not to say you're going to say, oh, I feel surprisingly fine. I guess that wasn't for me. No, you're still bummed. You're still disappointed. But ultimately, having that deep trust that there's a larger picture out there. And this didn't work out, but it will work out. The right thing will work out for you.
That's such a good point to make about it's going to sting still. If Zach had done all of this, re-proposing to Bliss, pouring his heart out there, owning his mistake, falling on the sword, and she had just said no, he would have been heartbroken. And when you don't get the job, you're also a little heartbroken. You're embarrassed. You're disappointed. So it's going to sting, but it doesn't mean that in the end it's not the right thing for you. In this case, obviously, spoiler alert, it all works out. They are meant for each other. This is their path, and props to her for having the grace. And she really dissolved any sort of pride and was able to just see that they are meant for each other.
Yes, she's separated from the ego and the somewhat natural desire to punish and say, no, you could have had me. I was going to say yes, and you didn't pick me, so you missed out. You lost your chance. She was able to separate her ego from that and realize I wind up with the person I'm supposed to wind up with, so I need to remain open to that possibly being you. And I have admiration for how he handled a really unfortunate, really difficult situation as well, because he had to be vulnerable and open himself up to her and to all of us, knowing people all over the world are going to see this and be judging what he did or laughing at him or whatever reactions he's going to get from people all over the place. And he had to be willing to take that to go for what he wanted and what he believed in and what he knew deeply ultimately was right for him, even though he messed up at first.
They both had to eat their ego and dissolve it and show up as their truest self, like so vulnerable.
So that's the part that I ruined for Kaelynn, and hopefully I'm not ruining for any of you out there right now, because I did watch the live reunion last night, and it was a great life lesson for us and for the Soulful Society, because more than a year later, they are going stronger than ever, looked so happy, and all's well that ends well, right?
And it's all because he owned his mistake and was vulnerable. Right. So good job, Zach. All right. Lesson number 2.
Self-esteem is not derived from changing yourself to be accepted or fitting in. Self-esteem grows from owning your uniqueness.
So we talk a lot about authenticity and obviously soulfulness, living from the soul, being your truest self. But like, what does that exactly mean? So we want to unveil this by sharing with you one of our favorite shows, Next in Fashion. So these fashion designers competing for the title of Next in Fashion is the best show. It is so joyful. It's incredible.
It's so good.
I'm addicted, and I'm slowly, snail pace, watching the show because I want to soak up every moment. It is so cool. There's nothing more attractive than seeing someone in their genius.
Yes.
Seeing someone,
I agree,
just in flow, but especially creatively, and to see them all have their unique sense of style. And arguably, you could look at a lot of these designers and not appreciate their style because it's not yours, but you can appreciate their work as a whole. Like, maybe it's not for you, but you can still find appreciation for, wow, I would never wear that, but that's really cool. There's this, there's several designers who exemplify that, where they just go for it.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can look at several designers' work and genuinely admire it, respect it, be in awe of it. Would never wear it myself. It just wouldn't work for me and my personality, but that doesn't take anything away from how much I admire it. I love that the challenge is obviously presented to each of them. The exact same challenge. They have the exact same access to materials and supplies and the sewing room in the same amount of time, yet the end product couldn't be more different. But when you watch the show and you see their process and you see their inspiration and you see their backstory, because they really do bring their personal lives. I think that's something that makes the show so compelling for me, is the way it's not just about people designing clothes for commercial consumption. There is such a deeply personal element to what they produce that just draws me in and keeps me coming back.
I think, yeah, I totally agree. And I think what really draws me in is this is authenticity exemplified. That word is so watered down, especially in the wellness space. And we've started to acknowledge that and look into that. You know, that's in a lot of our show descriptions and what we talk about, because it's so important and we care about it so much. But to see it in action is such a healthy reminder, because a lot of us are really just trying our best to be liked. And these creatives, these artists, these designers, whatever you want to call them, they just stay true to themselves, no matter how weird what they're doing is, or how like just unconventional, just odd. I just find so much respect for it because it's cool. It's cool to me to be so different. And I think it's the commitment. That's what's really, really exciting, is there's not a lot of self-doubt in there. There's a lot of self-esteem.
The commitment to their vision and what they're doing, and also the deep-seated belief in self.
Yes.
The belief that,
So refreshing.
okay, they've made this borderline impossible, but I can do this. I can pull this off. I can put something that represents me, that I stand behind, that I am proud of, down that runway in this impossible amount of time. I so admire that deep confidence. I don't even know if confidence is the right word. From what I've seen in interviews, they say, I don't feel at all confident when I'm doing it, but it comes across as confidence and belief in self.
So I want to share a quote with one of our favorites, Brené Brown. She said, "Fitting in is the greatest barrier to belonging because fitting in says, be like them to be accepted. Belonging says, this is who I am."
When you see a group you want to be a part of, you shouldn't have to change yourself to feel like you belong in that group and to feel accepted by that group. You should basically do it the exact opposite way around. Be yourself.
Yeah. Be as weird as you can.
Yeah, be what feels you, what feels good, like how you want to be, and find the group that wants that. This seems like a good pause point as we're halfway through today's life lessons to ask you, dear listener, to please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, a partner, a sister, or whoever the reality TV lover in your life is at this time. They'll get these references, right?
Lesson number 3, don't dismiss red flags. We definitely don't want you doing that, especially signs of a narcissist. Reality TV show lovers, there is no way you haven't heard about Scandival. And we were racking our brains of like, what lessons come from Vanderpump Rules?
Yeah.
And we couldn't think of many until
that
honed
weren't
in
like
on this
negative
idea of like,
lessons.
right, like I just thought about Tom. And you know, how we can help the Soulful Society ward off signs of a narcissist. Because once you're in too deep, it can be really hard. But instead, if we can ward off these warning signs when we're in the beginning stages, we can get out of it quicker and save us a whole lot of heartache and headaches. And trauma.
Red flags that, you know, when you're in the throes of a new relationship, I mean, there's nothing like early love. Falling in love, the excitement of it, you get wrapped up in it. And I feel like that's the time that I certainly am most likely to excuse things or be like, nah, I must have read that wrong. I must be misinterpreting. That couldn't be it. Okay. If you see these things, do not write it off. Look deeply. Love bombing. Big, big narcissist move.
So what does this look like? I mean, this could look like a variety of things. Excessive gift giving, excessive words of affirmation.
Wanting to see you all the time, telling you how special you are, how different this is, how this is unique and there's nothing like it. And who doesn't want to hear those things? Like, I see how people fall for this repeatedly. It feels good. You're like, yeah, I am really great. I am really special. Thank you for noticing. I love hearing that. Of course you want to see me all the time. You must be my person. I always knew when I met the right person, they'd be obsessed with me. Well, sometimes too much is too much. And if it feels like too much, that might be a sign.
And this is where that like superficial charm comes into play. Like, we're talking about a covert narcissist. This person is social butterfly, has the perfect social decorum and graces.
Could turn it on and turn it off.
Yes. Also attention seeking. And that just reminds me of Tom Sandoval. Like, what is with this freaking band that he has, this cover band? Look, I support cover bands and pursuing your passions. But when we're talking about Tom Sandoval, everything goes out the window. This guy is a psychopath, probably a narcissist. So we wanted to bring in some of these examples so that you can learn how to not dismiss these red flags and run away. Attention seeking. Who is more attention seeking than Tom? He has repeatedly said, I'm the number one man of this friend group. I, me, come see my band, my restaurant, I do all the work. Blah, 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 Tom. Oh my gosh.
That brings up a theme I've noticed just personally over the course of my life, irrespective of reality TV. When people repeatedly tell me the same self-laudatory, for example, you just said, I'm the number one male of this friend group, or whatever it is. Maybe it's, I'm very smart. I'm this. And if somebody tells me that, it always strikes me as something a little off. Like, why do you feel the need to tell me this? Shouldn't I just notice this in you? But then when it's repeated over time, the more I hear it, the less I believe it, because I think, are you trying to do like a self-fulfilling prophecy? You just plant this in my brain, and if you tell me enough, I just take it as a given and I never need to see any evidence of it. I just believe all your words. People who really are that, they never tell me. I just figure it out from observing behaviors and patterns over time. For example, the smartest people I know have never, and I can't imagine they ever would, announce to me how smart they are.
I feel like that brings up another wellness lesson, a bonus lesson.
Oh,
like,
what's our bonus lesson?
Walk the walk. Walk the walk, don't talk the talk. You know, be about it, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Especially like with your habits and your qualities.
And trust that the people who you want to have notice will notice. And it'll be so much louder than you saying it in words.
Yeah. So obviously with a narcissist, they also blame, shame, dismiss the feelings and needs of other people. So just watch that, even if it's slight, little moments. If you're feeling dismissed, shamed, blamed, projected onto, run as fast as you can. Tom, what a psychopath. Okay, moving on to lesson number 4, our final lesson.
The universe is abundant. That's always true, but I find it especially true in shows like The Great British Bake Off, which I love, where the people on the show are quite literally in direct competition with one another. So if there's ever a place where there isn't full abundance, it's something like a reality competition show. But even in the face of this direct competition, there's enough room for kindness, enough room for compassion, enough room for humility. There's enough room to help others. And I love this about The Great British Bake Off. People help each other. If somebody's thing is dropping, the person next to them will run over and help them catch it. They don't stand there watching it happen and think, oh, good, because he messed up. His thing fell on the floor. He'll get voted off the show. I have one less competition. They have the other mindset. If I win, I want to win knowing I beat this person because my baking was better, not because his thing fell on the floor so I got lucky and he got kicked off. I love that.
It's like the purest show ever. Yeah. The purity in the show melts your heart.
It always makes me feel good watching it.
So good.
I love that they all want to win. They're all competing. They're all doing their best. But there's still room to be a kind, helpful person, friend, competitor, and win the way you should win something. Win the way that matters, that you can feel good about yourself for winning and know that you won for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Even if you're not in direct competition, you know, let's say you have a close friend or family member with, I don't know, similar career goals. Just because you have the same career goals doesn't mean that there's a finite amount of opportunity to accomplish the same thing. So you can still root them on and be in a direct alignment with your path and also accomplish the same thing.
I think that more often than not, there's a win-win. There's a synergy that comes from helping others, even other people, or especially other people in your own field who could be viewed as competition. But when you don't operate from that mindset, when you operate from there's enough for all of us to be incredibly successful as we ever want to be mindset, everybody comes out ahead. In the words of Michael Scott, win, win, win. Thank you so much for listening.
We appreciate you, Soulful Society.
DM or email us with feedback, questions, and episode ideas.
And make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast to help spread the word.
And of course, share this episode with all the reality TV addicts in your life.
Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers.